In a past life, Henry brought in a young girl, saying she was going to take over my position as director. I raised an eyebrow. Henry, she just graduated from college, are you sure? He calmed down and had the girls start from the bottom. But later on, she got drunk while on a business trip with the richest guy around, lost her innocence, and became a caged bird. Henry glared at me, filled with resentment. Clara, did you do this on purpose? He got someone to get me drunk and hurt me till I died, just so I would know how she felt. Reborn to the moment Henry burst into the meeting room. This time, I smiled and said, all right then, I quit. Then calmly left, waiting for the day Henry's company would fall. I died in an unfinished building. It was quiet around, no one in sight, a perfect spot chosen by Henry. After the morning meeting, he said a distributor wanted to talk. They're unhappy with your product. Go smooth things over. The secretary was called into a meeting. Just so happened I was alone. Just so happened my tire got punctured checking it. Then a bunch of punks dragged me into that abandoned building and forced bottle after bottle of cheap whiskey down my throat with its stinging odor. In the chaos, I heard fabric tearing. Then it was me being torn apart. Henry had said, play however you want. The pain was suffocating, but what pierced my soul was hearing them mention Henry. I quickly understood everything that happened that day. The location, the meeting, the nail behind every coincidence was Henry. But why? I'd been with the company over 8 years, loyal and dedicated, basically working day and night to build half their empire. Henry and I grew up together. Even when there were disagreements at work, I always took the blame, never giving him a chance to be upset. Unless it was for Lucy. When Lucy resigned, Henry, drunk, charged into my office. He flipped my desk, destroying my all-night work. Clara, if not for you, how would Lucy end up like this? That sweet girl, all your fault. Naive? I didn't see how Henry judged character. But no use arguing with a drunk. I grabbed my keys to leave. Henry, you're drunk. Go home and rest, I urged. But Henry shoved me hard to the ground. You sent Lucy on that business trip on purpose, right? I couldn't respond to him. Because that night, I was thrown against the wall, tearing my tailbone, hospital-ridden for 2 months. On rainy days, the pain was unbearable. So following that harrowing pain, it became clear why Henry did everything. Maybe because recently, word spread Lucy was pregnant. Clara, what do you think? The strong smells of sweat and alcohol faded. I smelled rich coffee. Realized I was sitting in the bright, spacious executive meeting room. Sunlight streamed through the floor-to-ceiling windows, warming me. Seeing Henry firm, hands pressing the table, I realized it. I had reincarnated. And it was to the day Henry brought Lucy into the company. Clara, don't worry. Henry promises your salary won't change, and the team still reports to you. Lucy will just be an intermediary between you and me. Before I could speak, the finance department veteran couldn't hold back. Henry, do you hear the nonsense you're saying? Old in his 50s, typically skillful at smoothing things over, his career almost solely focused on retiring. Yet his face was flushed from anger now, because Henry's suggestion was ridiculous. Lucy, his longtime sponsored orphan, had a close bond with him, but at best she was a new grad. An entry-level graduate using me as a stepping stone. It's hard to say if people would laugh at me first or the love struck Henry. Somehow Lucy had a gift for driving him crazy. Lucy graduates, can't find a job, cries at Henry's place, and gets a fast track to a company exec. What about me? 8 years of toil earning my spot. Now, Henry calmly decides for me to give it up. If Clara doesn't have any issues. In the past I questioned. Henry, she just graduated, you sure? Henry had only run the company 3 years. When I spoke up, the executives collectively opposed him. A group of seasoned business people forcing Henry back. But after reliving that shabby building, I was truly tired. I used to believe hard work pays off. But past Henry taught me the tale of the farmer and the snake. So this time, under the watchful eyes, I smiled beautifully. Okay, Henry. Henry was stunned for a moment. Then a victor's relaxed grin appeared. Nice, you're being reasonable. But I interrupted him. Henry, formally I resign. I haven't taken my 10-day annual leave this year. Counting a month's notice. This Friday's my last day at the company. I hadn't finished yet. Clara. Henry slapped the table. A true sign of his anger. In the past, I'd quickly apologize, abandon the choices I thought correct. After all, working felt like a brothel's bought pleaser, dependent, vital to make patrons happy. Henry was that patron. But today, I just wanted to buy my freedom. Henry, I'll send my resignation to you and HR ASAP. Flashing him a polite smile, I left the room. Henry's face was dark enough to drip water. Henry and I weren't meant to be like this. We grew up together. When I was 10, my uncle picked me from the orphanage and brought me to his villa. At first, Henry wouldn't even notice me. But when we hit middle school, he saw I wasn't threatening, and his attitude softened a bit. He'd wait for me so we could walk to school together, and sometimes invite me to lunch. Once a guy in my class made fun of me saying, "Clara? Isn't she Henry's child bride? But she's a bookworm. Might be boring in bed. The young master might not enjoy it." Henry showed up just in time. He punched the guy so hard his face was bleeding, and he begged for mercy. My uncle ended up paying to settle everything and grounded Henry for a month during summer break. When I brought him food, he paused his game and snapped at me. "Clara, do you really see yourself as a child bride? There's a lot of staff here. You don't need to do this." So I stopped bringing him food. Later, he came knocking at my door one night. "Clara, I don't get this homework. Could you help me out?" Even though Henry barely studied, I patiently explained everything. After all, Henry and my uncle saved me from a dire situation. At that time, I thought, such a good Henry and such a good uncle. I wanted to spend my whole life repaying them. So I interned at their company before graduating, and I worked harder than anyone else. I never imagined that one day I'd repay them with my life. "Clara?" I opened the meeting room door and saw thin Lucy, dressed in a cheap white lace dress, making her look like a wilting flower. Her face was full of panic and guilt as she grabbed my clothing. "Sis, Henry mentioned you. He said you're amazing. I just want to work with you. No other intentions." In the past, I believed her and brought Lucy into my department. I assigned my best subordinates to train her and scheduled regular one-on-ones with me to help her climb the ranks faster. But Lucy didn't put much effort into work. Instead, she'd spend afternoons in the CEO's office with Henry. When I walked in, she was massaging his shoulders. "I'm sorry. Henry looked so tired. I'll get back to work right away." Henry let her stay, then criticized all my report plans to show his authority. Afterward, I returned to overtime while Lucy rode in Henry's sports car, enjoying the starry roof. Back to present, I noticed a sly satisfaction in Lucy's teary eyes. I chuckled. Henry thinks Lucy is a resilient little flower, but in truth, she's a parasitic vine that survives by clinging to others. So I said, "Congrats, Lucy, on your new position." Her face lit up with a surprised expression. "Clara, I can't do this." I shook my head. "Anyway, I've already told Henry I'm resigning. I'll start my leave next week. It's short notice, so how about we start transitioning this afternoon?" After I spoke, silence swept the room. Lucy's face turned pale. Of course, a fragile vine can't manage on its own. "Lucy, don't worry." Henry appeared, tired from a meeting with executives. But seeing Lucy's worried face, he looked sympathetic. "Henry, did I upset Clara? Is that why she suddenly wants to leave? But I really like her." Lucy was on the verge of tears, and I was nauseated with the way she faked sincerity. Sadly, Henry couldn't detect the deceit. He just said, "Clara, come to my office. Remember, I'm still your boss." I followed him into the CEO's office, knowing how well thought out their plan was. I'd do the work while Lucy took the glory. I'm renowned in the industry, and she'd stand on my shoulders, appearing even more remarkable. But I was the unexpected wrench in their plans. "Clara, do you really have to be so stubborn? If you apologize to Lucy now, I can pretend none of this ever happened." I looked at Henry silently. He seemed to think I hesitated in compromise. "Think about how many times you've argued with me over the years. If it weren't for our shared past, you wouldn't last here." He played the benevolent boss, as if assigning me a supervisor was lenient. Yet was I unreasonable during our disputes? Or was newbie CEO Henry intent on establishing authority by dismissing my ideas? "Henry, if there's nothing else, I'm leaving. Regardless of what you say, my decision remains unchanged." Smack! The picture frame on the desk fell to the floor. It was a photo from our high school graduation, with me, Henry, and Uncle. I had given him that old glass frame as a graduation gift. Now it was broken. The relationship I had with Henry for 2 lifetimes ended there. After a moment's hesitation, I walked out without looking back. Then it felt like a whirlwind. Executives took turns storming Henry's office in protest. I guess in this life, I really ticked off Henry. No matter how much the elders tried to persuade him, he wouldn't revoke Lucy's appointment. Now Lucy is the marketing director. He was adamant. So, I quickly handed over my duties to the new director. Lucy still had that absent-minded look, nodding frequently as if to say she understood. But as soon as I finished speaking, she darted into Henry's office. "Henry, I don't know if I upset Clara. She talked so fast this afternoon. Can you explain what she meant?" I saw her leaning in close to Henry one time as I passed by. Their eyes were locked, and the air between them was thick with tension. It seemed like they were just seconds away from getting intimate. I chuckled. The more they drowned in their romance, the more spectacular the surprise I had planned for them would be. On my last day at the company, the whole department cried as they saw me off. My secretary hugged me tightly, using my white suit to dry her tears. "If you're leaving, why not take me with you?" She had been with me for 4 years. Smart and capable, I watched her transform from a fresh-out-of-college graduate, whose words were often mumbled, to someone who could stand on her own. Good subordinates and good bosses are both rare. But at that moment, I still gently pushed her away. "The last thing I need right now is loyalty. Stay here. I'll come back for you, okay?" She paused for a second, then wiped her last tear on me. When her tears finally dried, I opened the blinds in my office. She shouted at me, "Clara, why haven't you finished packing? Are you really going to keep Lucy waiting?" That day, under the complex gazes of everyone, I left. That day Clara, who had made waves in the industry for 8 years, disappeared. But I knew the drama I had prepared was about to unfold. As I left, I happened to bump into Nolan, the richest man. In the past life, Lucy meeting Nolan wasn't part of my plan. But her silence made it seem like I was to blame. It was like I sent her on a trip, and she happened to meet Nolan, got forced to drink too much, and lost her innocence. I was that first snowflake in the avalanche. Although, I did hear from a subordinate that the restaurant they dined at on the business trip was chosen by Lucy. That place was so expensive the supplier almost had a heart attack. But it also happened to be Nolan's usual spot. After everything, our party had ended. How Lucy found her way back, there was anybody's guess. Upon hearing this, I just nodded. I picked a weekend and shared this with Henry. I meant to comfort him, saying everyone has their path. And maybe Lucy was living her dream now. But he snapped at me. "Clara, how did I never see how vicious you are? She's just a simple girl with no hidden agenda. Don't think adding these baseless speculations to her will make you feel better." I was wrong. I had forgotten that over the past year or two, Henry stopped trusting a word I said. He questioned every proposal, and now, trying to shatter Lucy's innocent facade was out of the question. So in this new life, I realized that my advice was falling on deaf ears. Let Lucy put on a show for Henry, but I didn't do anything special. Just sent a collaboration proposal to Nolan's secretary in Lucy's name. I pieced it together using old materials I had. The highlight was the photo of Lucy at the end. Carefully chosen, her look was sweet and charming, resembling Nolan's ex-wife and his past girlfriends quite a bit. That's the trick Lucy used in the past life to climb the ladder. And in this life, it's the real invitation to Nolan. The richest man, truly a man of sentiment, surprisingly accepted the invitation. He entered the company's doors despite his usual absence. He even listened to Lucy's incoherent presentation with a composed face, saying, "Lucy did well, let's start with $1 billion. Henry was both stunned and thrilled. He ended Lucy's internship early and signed her full-time, confirming her place as director. That night, as I lay in my bathtub, I got a text from him. "Clara, see, the world still turns without you. Maybe even better." I laughed and turned off the screen. Just 10 minutes earlier, I got a message from Linda. Nolan's secretary asked for Lucy's contact. I overheard it, wow. I sipped my wine and suddenly started wondering. When Henry finds out that his innocent little flower has climbed the social ladder, What will his reaction be? That was his cherished, innocent little girl after all. In the past, Lucy was taken back by Nolan because she was pregnant. So before realizing the pregnancy, she still went to work, playing the part of the pure little flower. One day, I even saw a trending topic about her and Henry. CEO sponsors female student for years. Photo of them together revealed. One picture was from 4 years ago when Lucy first entered school. The other was recent. The once naive girl now in professional attire, standing firmly beside Henry. They did look like a perfect match. Quite the ship. The little flower who worked her way up to the CEO, just by sheer effort. To be honest, even 4 years ago, Henry's gaze wasn't as pure as he pretended. First time knowing there was a scholarship for female students in mountainous areas. Wow, guess I'm buying products come Black Friday. Consider it my wedding gift, haha. I understood instantly. The PR department probably had leftover budget and booked ad space to butter him up. But with looks being the ultimate pull, Twitter indeed had quite a lot of shippers for the couple. They even created a trending topic, checking in daily. As the topic heated up, sales numbers during Black Friday skyrocketed. Henry was thrilled. He generously gave the PR department a month's bonus, and even replied personally, "Thanks for all the blessings. Lucy is a hardworking girl. I'm still pursuing her." Fans went wild. But I heard Lucy refused the proposal from the PR department to register a Weibo account to reply together. I'm not good with words, and don't know how to respond properly. There's a lot I still need to learn, and right now, I'm not a good match for Henry. I get it. Maybe another big fish hasn't taken the bait yet. And Lucy doesn't want to reel it in too soon just because of Henry. Yet the spare tire still smiles in an indulgent way. "No, you're worth it. But it's okay, I can wait." Linda said the atmosphere between them was almost palpable. What a shame. It was a meeting with 40 to 50 people from different departments. It was already 8 p.m., and the sound of hungry stomachs grumbled repeatedly. Nobody wanted to continue watching the CEO and the delicate flower's romantic drama. But employees tend to suffer in silence. Only the mischievous Linda truthfully recorded the nauseating conversation in the meeting minutes that were sent to the entire company. The next day, the girls in the admin department were gossiping while eating sunflower seeds and play acting the scene. "Remember to give me that report this afternoon, okay? I'm clumsy, I can't learn these things." "No worries, I can wait." Lucy's face almost froze when she passed by. When she went to find Linda to settle accounts, she saw an innocent face. "Huh, didn't you say last time that I should transcribe the meeting notes word for word?" "You." Lucy's eyes were red, and she seemed about to crumble any second. But she couldn't find a reason to retort Linda. Because Linda had documented exactly what Lucy had once said. Lucy remembered Henry's tastes, likes, and even where he was tense during massages. But she could never remember work-related information. Once, someone sarcastically asked why a young person was so senile, and she ran out of the conference room with tears in her eyes. Then privately scolded Linda. "Why didn't you write down the full meeting record? What were you doing in the meeting?" And thus Linda typed away with carpal tunnel syndrome. Especially when Henry and Lucy were in a meeting together, she secretly messaged me. "I feel like an automatic typing machine in a CEO romance novel. Sometimes it's even a bit X-rated." The day I left, I bumped into Henry by coincidence. He was dressed in a sharp suit, looking down at me. "Clara, are you going to relax or look for a job?" He was so confident. After all, my resignation wasn't on good terms. No other company would want to hire a troublemaker because of his influence. If I wanted to change jobs, I'd have to leave the city quietly, seeking something new. "If you want to come back, humble yourself, and I can give you another chance." Henry looked at me, certain of his control. He even casually picked up my boarding pass and glanced at it. "The scenery here's nice, perfect for vacation. Take another week off, then come back to work in the same position. How about that?" Looking at the flippant Henry, he seemed like a stranger. In his eyes, am I just a puppet without feelings, to be humiliated at will? No matter what, Clara, who owes his family, will obediently return to his company and keep her head down. Maybe in another life. But not for this Clara, who's already died once. I retrieved my boarding pass from Henry's hands. Henry's jokes are hilarious. Turning away, I walked off firmly, hearing Henry curse angrily behind me. Clara, I hate when you're like this. Stubborn as a stone in the outhouse. Oh, what's wrong with stones? The Monkey King emerged from a stone too. Yes, I have a rotten temper and a stiff character. But all these years, every difficulty I faced was resolved by gritting my teeth and pressing on. Henry said a lot of crazy things recently, but this time he insulted me by calling me a stone. I actually kind of like it. Better than being a gentle breeze among flowers. I'd rather be a loud stone. Upon landing, I followed memories from another life and found an inn. The owner Ken is an artist, creating in the courtyard every day. Innocent, young, passionate. Just like I was when I first started out. With nothing else to do, I moved a chair to soak up the sun and chat with him. After a few days, we slowly became friends. He learned about my ridiculous experiences and felt outraged for me. That person is so stupid. Sis, if I were him, I'd just give the company to you. You can work and I can paint. Wouldn't that be awesome? I laughed and sipped his brewed pure tea. Exactly. Then, my face fell with a bit of melancholy. But after working for 8 years, I really am tired. Maybe this is a good chance to retire at the peak. He opened his mouth to say something, hesitated for a moment, chose to focus back on his canvas. I quietly drank tea, waiting for the timing. Within days, rumors about a CEO embezzling and fleeing abroad circulated in the industry. One morning as I was heading to the breakfast stall, I bumped into Ken leaving. In place of his loose casual clothes, he was in a shirt and dress pants. Attending a wedding? I asked, surprised. Ken shook his head, family matters. Then looked at me with a complex expression for a few seconds. But he said nothing in the end. I nodded, be safe. We had time. I wasn't in a hurry. True to form, while Ken was gone, a headhunter friend contacted me. Did you go for an interview? I heard their people are asking around about you. I didn't reply. Continued basking in the sun in the courtyard. Let them inquire. Sure enough, a few days later Ken returned. When the alley had fallen silent, he knocked on my door. In front of me stood a man weary, as if swept up by a storm, yet with a hint of unfamiliar sharpness on his face. Ken stared at me intensely. Clara, I have a proposal I'd like to discuss. Henry and Ken. Similar company sizes. The old generations passing happening almost simultaneously. Fresh from grad school, Henry rushed back from abroad to take over. Meanwhile, Ken over there brought in a professional manager as CEO, never involving himself in company affairs, except for the annual shareholders meeting. Everyone laughed at him for giving away his great empire so easily. But after being under Henry's thumb for years, and getting a second chance, I see Ken as a smart man who knows when to delegate. Why should a guy with an art background, who's also a bit of a name internationally, give up his career to run a company? Knowing how to use and recognize talent is good enough. So, in this life, Ken seems like a great person to team up with. Plus, I remember it was around the time Lucy showed up that those embezzlement scandals surfaced about the CEO. Ken needed a fresh professional manager, and I was looking for a position higher than just a director. Moving into his and was totally part of my plan. I wanted to be the Clara he met in simpler times. The Clara who would chill with the local painter, soak in the sun and chat. Not just a cold resume on some A4 paper. This way, when he got backstabbed, I'd be the first trustworthy candidate to cross his mind. So here we are. Clara, what do you think? Ken asked, trying to look calm, though tiny beads of sweat gave him away. He did offer me a pretty sweet deal. But I stayed quiet for a long time, not nodding right away. One thing Henry taught me, people don't value things that come too easily. I was waiting for Ken to come back to me a few more times. Plus, even though he offered to triple my salary, being on payroll still meant I was just another worker. Just a replaceable piece in the chess game. So when Ken came to me the second time, I brought up equity and asked for a pretty risky share. I was expecting him to balk, or call me greedy. That's the art of the business talk. You demand $200 when you want $100, and the other side, even if they have $200, will act like they only have $20. I thought Ken would play that game since he grew up in this world. But he just said, deal, I'll talk to my lawyer and get back to you for signing. And off he went like a cheerful puppy. What just happened? I was stunned. The negotiation was so smooth it didn't even feel like one. I was taking advantage of Ken. Even as I flew back with Ken, it all felt like a dream. One moment I was in some dingy building. The next, Clara was the new CEO. Ken looked relieved when we signed the deal. Years later, I still find it funny. Ken, why do you trust me so much back then? We only hung out in town for a week. Ken paused his work on the canvas. Your 8 years in the last company proved your loyalty and skills. No reason for me to doubt you. Bringing you on as CEO was the best investment I made. Clara, you're great. Anyone but him would see it. On my first day on the job, Henry's company was trending for all the wrong reasons. New ads were behind it all. Like lingerie. Wear this, and you'll outshine other girls at work. Or the hotel ad. A girl in a skimpy outfit grins at the camera. Even cheap hotels can help you meet your destined one. And a cleaning products ad claiming that women's odor is 3 times more than men's without their product. It cracked me up. With 70% of their consumers being women, ads like this were just driving customers away. But I wasn't shocked. In my former life, Lucy, tasked by me, crafted similar pitches. Her ideas made me think the world was one big joke. I tried to explain. Our buyers are women. Shift your perspective. But she looked at me through teary eyes. Clara, am I stupid? I was worried when I sent it, so I ran it by Henry. He thought it was fine. That's when I knew neither of them had a place in this line of work. Lucy used Henry as a shield, so I let her cry it out and moved on. When I heard Henry promoted her to head of marketing this life, I found it laughable. Let her have it. Henry's clueless. Lucy's ads were like express tickets to bad publicity. The consumers, they wondered if they were being marketed to or insulted. How could there be such male-centered ads? Never buying from them again. Isn't this the company with the CEO romance drama? Disgusting. Do your ads right instead of selling gossip. I once shipped that, wish I could unsee it. With the company's stock plummeting, their once loyal customers were shifting focus and replacements. This is when they noticed Ken's company. Known for its humble national products, affordable yet effective, his stuff wasn't much different than Henry's. Guilty me assumed they weren't top-notch, but turned out they were Ken's all along. Ken's homegrown brands Roundup. Didn't know these were his too. Market them, please? The last boss didn't care for marketing, but he invested in research, leading to loads of patents. So I guided our marketing team to highlight the special components, efficacy, pricing, and target users, all neatly organized. We tackled consumer feedback directly on official accounts. Our quality products and positive engagement stood out against Henry's previous ad disasters. Stock charts of both companies showed Ken's rising, with Henry's nosediving. The day Henry's got the negative press, I heard Lucy quietly left the company. Henry had a rough day with bad news. And before leaving work, he thought he'd drop by Lucy's office to comfort the sad girl. But he only found an empty room. There was just a resignation letter on the desk. Lately, Lucy's been leaving work early. That was Linda speaking, who'd already resigned and was passing by lightly. But Henry didn't catch the hint. He thought Lucy, this stubborn little white flower, quietly left due to overwhelming guilt. Henry rushed over to the big apartment he bought for Lucy, but it was empty. Her phone wasn't reachable either. In a panic, he called the police. The police, used to seeing all sorts of things, barely batted an eye as they told Henry, "Come back after 24 hours." So with red eyes, he searched for Lucy all day long. Meanwhile, during the crucial 24-hour window of the PR crisis, Henry didn't even think about that trending disaster, nor did he set foot in the company. But he saw news about Lucy again 2 days later, in a newspaper in the harbor city. Billionaire Nolan returns with new partner. Old faces, new relationships, possibly pregnant. The once stubborn and simple girl in his memories was now dressed in lavish designer clothes, holding hands with a middle-aged man. She clung to him, as if she had secured a meal ticket for life. Her face was brimming with joy. In the past, Lucy was on a business trip, and there had never been such grand news of her returning home hand in hand with Nolan. Henry believed the rumors in the circle, that poor Lucy was spotted by the billionaire on her business trip night, got drunk, and lost herself. So who's to blame for this tragedy? It had to be me for sending Lucy on that business trip. But now the whole story happened without my involvement. It was Lucy herself who chose to gracefully retreat from the crisis in Henry's company and eagerly fall into Nolan's embrace. Henry was forced to face reality, and by then, it was already the third day of Henry's company being on the trending list. Ken's company had smoothly seized the massive flow of attention. Henry's PR department was still waiting for his response on which solution to go with. He only replied, "Whatever." Then he spent an entire week drowning his heartbreak in bars. In novels, a CEO going crazy for love can seem quite romantic, I suppose. But in the real world, Henry disappearing during turbulent times only made him lose more people's support. So I bought a ticket to Jiang City. I knew my time to reap the rewards had come. "Sis, I missed you so much." Linda, now a chief secretary at Ken's company, hugged me with tears and snot when she saw me. She'd been promoted, got a raise, and no longer had to be a typist. Together, we met many of our former suppliers. Amidst the clinks of glasses, we reaped quite the rewards. After all, year-end is the time for renewing contracts. And now that Henry's company seemed on the verge of collapsing in madness, Ken's company was thriving under my leadership. Smart people know what choices to make. Then one day at a banquet, I heard about Henry's love story. The latest chapter was how Henry chased Lucy down, wanting her to run away with him. "You must have been forced by him, right?" But Lucy didn't speak, nervously shaking him off. Naive Henry ended up getting beaten half to death by bodyguards lurking in the shadows. Did he not know Nolan built his empire on the back of the underworld? Guess the drink made him stupid. A friend joked like that. I think me and my uncle might be to blame for protecting Henry too well. Even now, he still has this naive "it's all about me" attitude. Though I did not expect his drunken escapade to end at my doorstep. Seeing me, his eyes lit up as he stumbled over. Blood smeared across his face. He called out to me with deep affection, "Clara." The last time Henry called me like that was probably 10 years ago. As our relationship slowly crumbled, he began seeing me as a villain, belittling and confronting me everywhere. Yet here he was saying, "Clara, can we start over? I've realized you're the only one who truly cares about me." I found it ridiculous. I turned my head and walked past him. But the next second, he used his brute strength to shove me against the wall. In that instant of darkness, I couldn't help but think of a stifling moment from my past life. The pungent smell of alcohol. My whole body trembled uncontrollably. But Henry continued his one-man show. "Clara, I was deceived by Lucy. I always thought she was so much like you used to be. That's why I liked her. But she's not you, she's just a complete gold digger. Clara, come back please?" Henry's voice was hoarse, pleading as his excitement built. Yet he failed to notice my terrified expression. I had no choice but to suppress my fear, to tell myself to calm down. In a few breaths, I quickly returned to my past life's mindset. Then I lifted my leg and kicked Henry with all my strength. While he doubled over in pain, I turned and unlocked the door with my fingerprint. He persisted in calling after me, "Clara." The sentimental calling was cut short a second later, because a less than fully dressed Ken emerged from the bathroom to the doorway. "Sis, why's there a mad dog at our doorstep?" He took my hand, which Henry had grabbed until it turned red, and gently blew on it. "Your hand is red. Does it hurt, sis?" I shook my head. Henry paused for a few seconds, then quickly recognized the face next to me. The two families had occasional interactions. "Clara, no wonder you became the CEO at Ken's company." I was wrong. You and Lucy are the same kind of people, rising by hooking up with men. Henry's tone was angry, but there was a hint of excitement, as if seeing a goddess fall from grace. As if the more shameless I was, the more it highlighted his purity. "Henry, I'm not like you. I don't mix business with personal life." Ken rested his chin on my shoulder, looking at Henry, like he was staring at a lowly ant. "By the way, I owe you for how things turned out with my sister. If you hadn't let her leave the company so easily, I might still be waiting for my chance to take her place as president." Ken shut the door and locked it. Henry stood outside looking lost. I just stared at the lazy cat on the couch. "Done with the art exhibit? When you heading back?" Ken didn't answer, just rested his chin on his hand looking at me. "Sis, I just helped you stick it to him. Aren't you gonna thank me first? I should, huh? So how about I knock the rent for crashing at my place off what I owe you? For real. There was no juicy gossip between me and Ken. He just came for the art exhibit and hated staying in hotels, so he crashed at my place. Then by chance he ran into Henry, the guy he hates the most in the story. At first, I did think Ken was here to keep an eye on me as the new president, given he's the biggest shareholder. But he stayed a few days and never mentioned work. Henry used to make a fuss over every tiny decision, but now Ken trusts me so much, and it just feels weird. When he left, he just said, just wanted to see how you were doing. I don't get the business talk, but if you're in a good place, that means everything's fine, and I'll get a bigger dividend next year. Ken grinned under winter's sun like he didn't have a care in the world. Sis, you said I'd just be a carefree rich guy, didn't you? Maybe it's all in my head. On the coldest day of the year, it felt like I could hear the ice melting. Days rolled on like dominoes. Ken opened a branch, and both the stock and his shares soared. Henry lost over half his suppliers. His business was already slumping, and he hit capacity issues. Revenue dropped, so Henry slashed business lines and laid off people. He was just waiting to get through this chill season. But karma's a thing. Come early spring, instead of a stock rebound, Henry got into a car accident. Funny part? Last lifetime, on this day, I got forced to choke down cheap booze before dying. Now he ends up losing his legs and can't live independently. And then there's the call. Linda watched my face carefully. Henry's been calling every day since his surgery, begging me to visit him in the hospital. But I'm caught up with new business at the branch and can't be bothered. He said he wants to apologize for that abandoned building incident. You know what he's talking about? I was stunned. For a split second, it felt like being dragged back to that damp, chilly building. Tied up, calling for help but no one comes. The abandoned building. Henry's handiwork from last time. How could I forget? Could it be Henry's been reborn too after the crash? I heard myself say, fine, I'll go to the hospital. When I walked in, Henry, looking pale, was staring out the window. A pear tree outside was dotted with delicate white flowers. He spotted me and gave a weary smile. Clara, look at those flowers. Don't they remind you of yourself? Pure, simple, and fragile, really needing my protection. I laughed. Maybe once upon a time, I did look up to Henry, grateful for his help. Back when my English was a mess, and he was the prodigy with tennis and horseback riding. I was underground, he was flying high. But over the years, if I stayed a delicate flower, how'd I make it this far? If I needed someone to protect me, who would have kept newly returned Henry steady as president? So Henry, I can only be a stubborn piece of rock. Henry stared at me. Clara, you got reborn too, didn't you? You must have been to be so disappointed in me. To leave Henry Corp without looking back. But Clara, I didn't mean for you to die last time. I just wanted them to scare you. Just make you turn around and apologize. They did it on their own. Did what on their own? Poured all that alcohol down me? Stripped me? Decided my fate for me? But Henry, you hired them. Your orders were what? To tie me up and rough me up? Violate me but not kill me? Once or twice then stop. Or just do as they please. Henry, do you really think it makes a difference? If you hadn't sent those guys, hadn't judged so poorly, thinking I was after your Lucy, I never would have gone to that place. Henry looked sickly pale. The empty hospital room felt freezing and silent. After a long time, he looked up again with a bittersweet smile. Clara, I was wrong. Took a lifetime to realize you truly cared for me. I know I messed up. Please give me a chance to make it up to you, okay? I wiped my tears. Now that I'm sure Henry's been reborn too, there's really nothing more to say. No need. If you're so capable, make it up to the Clara from last life. That night after seeing Henry, I dreamt for ages. In the bits and pieces of memory, I pieced together the origins of Henry's growing hatred towards me. Maybe it was a high school exam. Back then, with my terrible English, I got first place on the only subject he excelled at. Or maybe during a college summer internship at Henry Corp. I spent half a meal talking work with my uncle, using terms that left Henry confused. He angrily left the table. When Henry joined the company, it got worse. I had 5 years at Henry Corp, naturally more experienced. No matter how modestly I offered advice, Henry always acted like I was showing off my seniority. To him, showing off meant mocking. Belittling him, small Henry. So, Henry just had to put me down. Belittle. Invalidate. Seems like it's only when I bow my head and admit I was wrong that he shows a hint of satisfaction. These moments happened too many times. I can't even remember them all. I think those moments are when the teenage Henry and Clara slowly drifted apart. Some more time passed. I heard Henry could finally get out of bed and sit in a wheelchair. He started working on saving his dying company. He even got a thick skin and asked Lucy for a meal, just to beg Nolan for an investment to save the company. But Lucy had to go to her prenatal Pilates class. No matter how many times Henry begged, he only got the time for a cup of coffee. This time, Henry didn't dare to make any moves that would alert the bodyguards. He just sat there and finished his proposal. But the results still weren't great. Sir, I really can't help you. My husband says my only job now is to take care of the pregnancy. So maybe you should find someone else, like Clara? The young woman gently touched her belly and left the not yet warm seat. This coffee is terrible, not coming here again, she said. And then, during that day's Pilates class, Lucy experienced severe pain and blood loss and lost her baby. According to tabloids, the ambulance was covered in blood that day. But caring as Nolan was, he only visited Lucy once. Without the value of bearing a child, Lucy was just another barn set to burn. Nolan soon found a new love that resembled his ex-wife more. Lucy quickly got kicked out. I later heard she never went back to work, but kept mingling with rich men. But if you don't respect yourself, others won't either. The middle-aged tycoon Lucy focused on never divorced his wife. When the wife found out, Lucy got her hair pulled and was yelled at in a downtown mall for an hour. Then a similar scene occurred again. Suddenly, there were drips of blood on the floor. Since Lucy had a previous miscarriage, her second pregnancy was fragile, and after a fierce argument, she lost the baby again. Evil did meet its doom. Listening to Linda's gossip, it felt like times long past. Then I thought about another rumored storyline. The missing Henry. Yup, it was Henry who spiked Lucy's coffee with abortion pills. He probably never intended to get an investment from Nolan. After all, once the coffee was gone, he got into a car to the airport, hightailed it out of there. But like I said before, Nolan made his money through some shady connections. Looks like after escaping abroad, Henry still got caught. Some say Henry was sold off to Vietnam. Others say they saw a mutilated version of him at some tourist spot in Southeast Asia. I sighed more than I grieved, and took the chance while Henry's company was leaderless, with the stock collapse at hand, to show the board my long-prepared takeover plan. Because pulling the rug out is a true businessperson's skill. Returning to Henry's company that day, it felt like the whole company lined up to welcome me. Everyone knew that the chaotic days were finally over. The day I completed the acquisition, I checked my phone and reread Henry's old message. Clara, whatever I owed you in a past life I've repaid. No one taught me what hate was, so I thought I always hated you. Later I realized, I just loved you painfully. When I saw this while surviving alone in a past life, I instantly thought of us. Clara, for all those wrong years, I just wanted you to look up to me once more. I miss you so much when you're not around. Clara, I love you. I took a drag on a cigarette, sighed deeply. Then I looked down and deleted that old message. Who knows how long the past lives Henry lived after my death. But all these years, he remained good at putting on a show. He was the one who humiliated me, hated me, and now says he's repaid his debt. Does Henry love me? Who knows? But does it matter? Not really. This life, I'm still thriving under the sun with shares in Henry's company. That's what matters most to me. 2 years passed. Under my leadership, several companies saw their net profits multiply. Their business portfolios kept expanding. After chatting with Ken, I decided to rename the company. He just got back from winning an award overseas and cared less and less about the company's affairs. You just decide. I'm fine with whatever. Ken didn't even look at me, just polished his precious trophy thoroughly. Oh well, being heartless is also a skill. But after I finished work, I spotted that familiar trophy in a corner of the glass cabinet. Suddenly it made me think about what Linda said a few days ago. Clara, Ken's award-winning piece this time. The person in it looks so much like you. Ken had painted a girl crying by the seaside. When I saw it, memories flooded back instantly. That was when I first started my internship at Henry's company. My uncle had me tag along for a bid on a government project. But Henry's company didn't get picked. Looking back, there were probably 1,000 more important reasons why we weren't chosen. But 21-year-old me stubbornly took all the blame on myself. Why am I not good enough? Why can't I do something for my uncle? Why? Suddenly, a random teenager passing by grabbed me. Life's great, why get all down about it? He actually thought I was about to jump into the sea. But really, my eyes were just blurry with tears, and I didn't notice the tide was coming in. In the end, probably driven by my emotions, I ended up telling this kind-hearted guy a long story. I remember him laughing. He said his family's in business, too. And he's only heard of people dodging blame. Never someone rushing to take it like me. If I had half your sense of responsibility, my dad would probably be dreaming and laughing. How about this? When you graduate, come work for us. If I could introduce my dad to a great employee like you, maybe he'd be too happy to give me a hard time. What do you say? He made me laugh through the tears. Little did I know then, this random chat would spark a new chapter on my future journey. The end.